Welcome to Closed with Justin Jacobs, the podcast built for health insurance agents who want more than just survival. They want growth, freedom, and balance. Each week, we'll cut through the noise with real stories, sales strategies, compliance tips, and the mindset shifts you need to thrive. Let's get started. So the first topic that I wanted to tackle was kind of, thinking about the foundation. There may be some foundational things that you could be missing right now. And so the first of that is, do you have an LLC set up? Do you have a business set up that you run all of your commissions and have set up your insurance sales through? I've met quite a few agents that, unfortunately, they're just running everything through their social security number. And I think the first time you get that set up, a lot of the health insurance carriers expect as an individual agent that you're just going to set up everything under your social. And, that's okay to get started, I guess, but there's so many other things that can make your career better by setting up an LLC. So there's some services that you can do it. I personally use, I think it's Sunshine State LLC setup, but you can Google a ton of these things. I'll see if I can find it and leave the link in the description so you guys can go out there and use that same link. But essentially, it should take 15, 30 minutes to set up an LLC. In the state of Florida, it'll cost you about $400, $500, something like that. And they do everything for you. So let me talk about, why you want to set up an LLC specifically. And there's four major reasons in my mind that you might want to consider setting up an LLC instead of just running everything through your social security number. The first thing, and I think the most important part, is legal protection. Now, yes, we might have errors and omissions insurance, E&O insurance, which is required for most health insurance agents to sell. If you have E&O insurance, you should be able to get that set up and move it in the name of the LLC. But essentially, if a client sues you, if something happens, somebody hits you with their car and they decide to go crazy and they find out you have a business, the LLC will protect your personal assets. So if somebody does sue you, they can only sue the company, the LLC. So if you own a house, if you own a car, if you own, real estate, if you own anything at all in your personal name, this LLC will be protected. Now, some people decide, hey, I'm going to put pretty much everything in the LLC, and that's fine. You can do that too. There's a bunch of tax implications we can talk about in just a minute. But that legal protection is probably the most important, just to have that extra layer that protects you and your family in case something weird happens to you. Those legal protections can really save you time, money, and energy instead of going through the legal battles that, you're going to have to protect, your college fund for your kid because somebody went crazy and wanted to sue you because of something that happened in the industry. So that's one major reason why you might want to consider an LLC. The second is what I was alluding to with tax purposes. So if you run everything through your social, you are an individual and you do not get any tax breaks on whatever you gather as income. You have to file it under your social. Now, one major thing that I discovered when I set up businesses is when you set up a business, you can write off your business expenses. So for example, if you have a vehicle that you use, I believe it's more than 50% of the time for business. So if you're, using your car every day, 40, 50 hours a week, driving around, meeting people, meeting clients, then that vehicle could be purchased through the business. So again, adding another layer of protection in case that vehicle was in an accident. They can't go after your personal assets because the business owns it. So worst case scenario, they can mess you up for your car or something like that. But you also should have car insurance. But at the end of the year, when you do your taxes, let's say you earn $200,000 a year in your commissions and residuals. And if you had expenses like you bought a new car and that car was $60,000, well, instead of you earning $200,000 a year, that's what you would get taxed on your individual tax return. But the way that it's set up under the business is you bought that vehicle at $60,000. You're going to minus that from your $200,000, and now you actually only earned $140,000. So obviously, you're going to pay less taxes on $140,000 than you are on $200,000. So that goes for things like your computer, your camera, anything that you use for your business, even your cell phone. I mean, obviously, that's a big one because as health insurance agents, having a phone is important. You've got to be able to answer phone calls and text messages and emails, and all of that is important. So you can purchase the cell phone through your company and not have to pay taxes on that particular purchase. So business expenses, always a really great reason on why you want to set up an LLC. Everything should be purchased through that LLC so you can write it off at the end of the year. Now, when it comes to commissions, if you're currently set up as an individual agent, and your commissions are flowing through your social, it doesn't take much to change this. So once you have your LLC set up, all you have to do is go back to each carrier and let them know that you have a new tax ID number, a new EIN, which is an employer identification number, same thing as a business tax number. You can go ahead and tell them that you have a new EIN and you need to update your 1099 or W-9, and they will go ahead and send you a form. You complete that form, and moving forward, all of those commissions should be running through that W-9. I recommend it if you're contracted with new carriers. You can go ahead and set that up in your W-9. In every W-9, there's your legal name, and then underneath it says doing business as, and that's where you put the business, and then you're going to put that EIN number on there. Some people get confused and they put, because it says or, they put both their social and their EIN. If you want it to go through the EIN, just do not put anything. Don't put your social on there. Just put your EIN number on there. Okay. The other cool part about having an LLC is you're going to get perks. So you can open up business checking accounts. You can open up business credit cards. You can set up business travel things and business hotels and access different programs because you're a business that the average person can't get into. So, for example, I'm a fan of Delta, and the American Express card that they have is built for businesses and it attaches to Delta. So any business expense that I use, I would go ahead and swipe that American Express card and it would give me points for Delta that I wouldn't normally be able to get because the business is tied to that credit card and the perks flow right into my Delta account. So it's really great to have those perks. So every year, typically I get free flights, free hotel stays, and other great perks. I mean, even Starbucks has stuff like that too. And so, check those out if you don't currently have a business credit card. Same thing with business checking. There's a lot more flexibility. You can also use it to get loans. So if you wanted to expand your business, maybe you want to hire an assistant, or maybe you want to start an agency down the road, having an LLC is just a great, running head start to get that stuff going and off the ground. So the business expenses and the perks are really going to make a big difference when moving forward and setting up an LLC. Also, you have your tax purposes. We already kind of discussed that, having an extra layer of your taxes in the mix, having an EIN and having all of your taxes run through your business is going to give you more leverage at the end of the year. So you can write off a bunch of stuff. You can even write off part of your home if you have a home office, your vehicle, like I said. Those are all really big expenses that make a lot of sense. The last perk, or the last reason I would really consider setting up an LLC, is if something should happen to you as an insurance agent and maybe your spouse is not currently licensed. We ran into this here at Health Plan Markets a couple times where a spouse passed away unexpectedly, and we were scrambling to figure out how are we going to maintain that book of business and get their spouse paid on it in perpetuity. And so we found that some spouses, they did not have a license. So it takes quite a bit of time to get a license in order to, take over that book of business. At the fastest rate, typically about 30 days. So you kind of need to stall a little bit. if an insurance agent passes away unexpectedly and they have an LLC, the money will still flow into the LLC until they find out that that agent is no longer with us. So you have a little bit of a buffer if, let's say, the husband was in an accident and the wife was also on the LLC. They can make changes and choices, and have access to the money without it being turned off right away, and then gives them enough time to go out and get their license if that's something that they wanted to do. Now, there's other options out there. Obviously, if those things happen, it's always really good to have a life insurance policy for yourself, just in case things like this happen. But this is another reason why you might want to consider setting up LLC, because setting up an LLC is really going to add that layer of protection, and it doesn't shut off the funds that are flowing into your bank account. So it makes it a lot easier for your spouse to access it or your family to access it if something should happen to you. So those are the 4 main reasons why I would recommend setting up an LLC versus just having all of your commissions run through your social. Again, tax purposes, you want to make sure that you're maximizing and minimizing your tax responsibility, and you can do that just by setting up an LLC. Business expenses and perks can be run through the LLC, which makes it a lot more effective. You can take more money home instead of having to pay taxes on it. That legal protection in case something should happen to you and someone wants to sue you. And then also in case of an unexpected accident or death, you have a spouse that can actually, be there and access those funds without, having to go jump through a bunch of hoops. So I'm hoping that you find this of value. If you're interested in any topic such as this that could expand your knowledge in the business, please leave a comment below and I will read that and we will get back to you. So that's where we're at. Thank you guys for watching and listening. And if you haven't already, subscribe. And so that way, when we do launch a new episode, you get notified. Appreciate your time and attention. Have a fantastic day.